Welcome back to the Discovering Commercial Real Estate podcast. Our guest today is veteran multifamily broker and principal of Alpha Realty, Lev Mavashev. Lev, thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure having you here today.
John, pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And before we talk business, tell the audience a little bit about yourself. So where are you from and how did you get into this industry?
So I'm from Brooklyn. Well, originally from Uzbekistan. I was born there. Moved here when I was 7 years old. Grew up in Brooklyn. Went to Baruch College. Studied accounting and economics. I graduated with honors from the accounting program there. It had a very good program, and I think it still does. I ended up joining Deloitte & Touche is it still is one of the big four international accounting firms. Did 2 years there, and then realized accounting wasn't for me. I didn't want to count other people's money. I wanted to make my own money.
Right.
So I got into real estate. I always liked real estate, and somebody introduced me to somebody that was recruiting at GFI. So I joined GFI as a junior commercial real estate broker. I was only there for a few months because I was on a team with somebody who ended up moving to Besen afterwards. So I went to Besen, and I was there a little over 5 years. And then in 2014, the later year of 2014, I started
Alpha
started
Realty.
my own company, Alpha Realty, and here we are.
Amazing. Beautiful. Lev, talk to us about your first few businesses you started. The lollipops from Costco, the sunglasses from eBay.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when I was in my younger years, I always try to get creative with
Making
selling
money.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, making money. I was always trying out new things, but my big thing was eBay. I used to sell a lot of stuff on eBay, from sunglasses to towels to whatever maybe my aunt, my mom, my dad, my
Right.
sister wanted to get rid of. I would always just sell it on eBay. But I'll tell you what, I think my real first sense of business didn't come from any sales, weird sales gigs I did. I think it came from mostly through investing.
Okay.
So after my bar mitzvah, I came to some money. By some money, I mean like $2,000.
Right.
And I didn't want to spend it on the latest Super Nintendo game or whatever it was. So my dad taught me like the value of like saving and investing. He actually
Right.
helped me open up it was like E-Trade. It was like an E-Trade account. So I started investing in stocks, and I did good. And the truth is, anything you bought in 97, 98 went up before the dot-com bubble burst. So that's where I really got into business, and I started reading investment books. I actually read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yep.
I love the book. And he
Amazing.
talks about building wealth through real estate and all that stuff. So I really loved real estate. I really loved real estate. I was exposed and loved real estate from that book.
Amazing. Great.
Yeah.
And so what do you think you'd be doing career-wise if not commercial real estate?
That's a hard one. I've been doing this for 14 years. I really can't think. Definitely not accounting. You know what? I love people. I love traveling. Maybe I would do something in international trade or something
Okay.
like that.
Interesting.
But I love real estate. I love what I do. I love selling buildings. I think.
Awesome. Amazing.
Yeah.
And so after graduating from Baruch in 2006, you worked as a CPA, and then you transitioned into an investment sales role. Walk us through how this experience kind of prepared you to be a principal at Alpha Realty.
So yeah, I was at a CPA track at Deloitte. I got my CPA, but I knew right away it wasn't for me. But I'll tell you what I got out of Deloitte. I think I got a sense of, I got a sense what corporate life is about, how to work in a structured environment, and it truly helps me in my day to day. Brokerage is it could be all over the place. It's very unstructured, but I learned and developed how to build structure in my day, and I teach, and I do the same thing with my team today.
Awesome. Amazing. And can you give us kind of a breakdown of what Alpha Realty is? What's kind of the gap filled in the market by this company?
So we're a boutique investment sales firm. It's 10 of us, including me, and I think our value add is we're specialized in New York City multifamily.
Perfect.
That's our asset class specialization, and there are products within it, right? Anything from workforce houses, rent regulated product, to fair market housing, to a building with tax abatements on
Mm.
it. But we specialize in all different product classes within New York City multifamily.
Understood. And what does the training process look like? Let's say you hire someone tomorrow. What does the next 2 years look like for them?
Um, we It's more of a mentorship program. I make sure to pair up. Every junior is paired up with a senior to work with.
Mm.
Honestly, we haven't hired juniors in a while. My last two hires have each had an over a decade of experience.
Mm.
But I make sure that a junior is always working closely with a senior. That's the best way to learn and grow in this business.
Mm. Understood. And why is multifamily the primary focus of the firm? Can you walk us through how you kind of became a market leader in such a competitive market?
I You know what? I worked at Besen. I got a taste of various asset classes. But I worked very closely under Amadoshi, who I think is one of the best brokers in the business. And I got a taste of multifamily. I just loved it. I rolled with it. I built my network through it. I built myself through it. And you know what? I understand the asset class. I think it's one of the best asset classes, maybe other than industrial, which became the post-COVID darling
Yeah, blowing
of
up.
the real estate world, but which is very different. But multifamily is what I know, what I understand, and I love. I drive up and down Brooklyn and Manhattan, and looking at all these buildings. I see them with a different lens,
Awesome.
like what could be for sale, what's ripe for a transaction
Yeah.
soon, But I love it, yeah.
And have you always had this kind of excitement for multifamily and real and investment sales?
I have, yes. Ever since my younger years. Yeah, ever since I started in the business, I
Right.
loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what was the first deal you closed? How did that come about?
The first deal, I'm sure you read about it somewhere. The first deal well, actually, that was the second deal. But the first deal I closed, I was in the business for already almost a year, and it was my 11th month in the business. I closed my first deal, 1275 Edward L. Grant. I sold it to Bernie Miller, who passed away a few years ago. But it was a 61 unit building in the Bronx. And it was from my first deal. My first deal, how I got, was when I started cold calling. Everybody's like, you got to learn how to deal with rejections. You're gonna get a lot of no's.
Right.
Surprisingly, on my first call, I got a yes. I'm like, sir, do you want to sell your building?
Awesome.
Absolutely. I want to sell my building. And I didn't know what to do. I had to, whatever. I pretended like I didn't know the call,
Right.
and I got up, and I'm like, this guy wants to sell his building. What do I do next? And obviously the training process began. And that led to my first deal. Yeah, interesting story.
Awesome. And what mistakes did you make in your first deal that you kind of will never make again, and you urge people to never make again?
Mistakes. There are plenty. Listen, what I got to tell you this. Before I did my first deal, I had 16 deals fall apart my first year. And for me, that was more of a learning experience
Right.
than doing my first deal. It was really discouraging, but all I can say is it's okay to make mistakes. Just learn.
Right.
Use it as an opportunity to learn and grow.
100%. And Lev, around 9 months ago in an interview with Solar Report, you said that the New York City investment sales market is relatively active and optimistic. Has this outlook changed, and why?
Absolutely. I would say the market is very cautious but optimistic right now. I mean, unfortunately, if you would have same year, January of last year, I was thinking this is the best market in
Right.
the world. New York's getting out of COVID, rents are rising through the roof,
Yeah.
low rates. My team and I were all pumped up to have an amazing, super year, which we did, by the way. We still ended up selling 61 buildings
Right.
last year, but it was the interest rates. Unfortunately, the interest rates really put a hamper on this. I mean, we went from 3% in March to 6% in November.
Yeah.
Like, it really
Super
took
fast.
a toll on the market. It's a stress on all these assets, not to mention inflation and rising costs, which, especially with rent regulated
100%.
buildings, it's it's a real squeeze on them.
And what's your outlook on the next 2 to 3 years? How do you think this situation is going to transform?
I'll tell you what, the market wants certainty.
Mhm.
Doesn't like uncertainty. So I think the fact that even though we are in a higher interest rate environment, the fact that there's some level of stability, I think I think it will. I think more buyers will be confident. They are already. We're already seeing more buyers that are planning to do acquisitions
Great.
in 23. Buyers that were on hold last year while
Right.
they were watching these rates go up and up and up. But I think as long as we have stability and there's some level of certainty, market's going to be active again. I think
Perfect.
end of this year, end of 23. You could quote me on it. End of
Okay.
2023, we'll see a huge uptick in activity.
Awesome. Okay, sounds good. And how can an owner of a rent stabilized building protect themselves from changes in the debt market affecting their investment if they have a cap on the upside?
There are ways rent stabilized owners can protect their investments. It's mostly through lowering operating expenses.
Mm.
Make sure you have the right paperwork, lower your taxes where you could, upgrade your building if you need to lower your expenses. But that's really the only way. Also, preferential rents. That's a silver lining there. Yeah, I mean, look, in general, rent stabilized owners are really in a tight spot.
Yeah,
I
100%.
don't got to tell you this, and yeah, a lot of them are selling this year because they have mortgages coming due.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And do you ever see the laws shifting to allow for upside in rent stabilized buildings?
Look, I think the laws I think they came from a good place, but I think it's
In practice, doesn't work.
yeah, I think the pendulum is too much to the left. I think it will center out, and I think we're starting to see it. Right, they allowed a 5%, a 3.25 and a 5%
Mm.
increase on 1 and 2 year renewals. I think some of the regulations are starting to become a little more pro landlord, but we have yet to see. But I think it is going to somehow center out.
Okay, understood. And what's the most complicated part of the deal when it comes to selling a rent stabilized asset in New York City?
I think the paperwork look, every buyer right now is really digging in and doing their due diligence. I think the right sellers are really prepared to sell. They have all their, they make sure they have all their leases and tenant files and DHCR, all registered rents are proper. All the
Mm.
DHCR paperwork is kosher. It's a very
Delicate.
it's a very involved process, but all your ducks have to line up, especially for a rent stabilized building.
Understood. And with the expiration of the 421A tax abatement, how have you seen new developers building with affordable housing units and making their projects feasible?
They're not. Even now, so first of all, development sites, even that have the foundation in and are grandfathered into the 421A, there's a huge concern that they might not be out and done by 2026. So it really put development activity to a halt, and I think the city's shooting themselves in New York State and New York City
By
are
removing
shooting themselves
incentives.
in the foot by letting this expire. I don't know why. I'm shocked they did. It was such a successful program.
Yeah.
I get it. They didn't build as many affordable housing as they wanted to because they gave 70-30. So you come to the negotiation table and you figure something out that works for everybody. The private sector will do anything as long as you give them the right incentive.
Right.
So if you make a program that works for everybody, you're going to build. You want to build affordable housing, then incentivize the developers to build
do it,
affordable
yeah.
housing. You gotta give them something. You can't take away everything and expect them, and expect this to be built.
Absolutely, yeah. People won't build if they lose money.
Right, exactly. Why would I do something if I'm not making money on
Yeah.
it? Give them an opportunity to make money. It's a win-win.
Yeah, for sure. And how do you train your brokers to kind of handle situations like owners with high pricing expectations?
So it's very important that we qualify the sellers up front, and everybody on my team understands it. Yes, there is a high price expectations. We try to get a sense of why it's there. Is it there just because he's not transacting unless he hits that price, which I get it, right? He has to pay his whatever it
Yeah.
is, pay off all this, and maybe he has a couple of brothers and sisters that won. I get it. Every situation's different, but unless they're going to transact in the current market, there may not be real sellers, and that's what we like to do. We want to get to that point as quickly as possible. Hey, Mr. Seller, I know you want $20 million, but we think this is realistically going to trade around 14, 15. Very unfortunate, but do you see yourself transacting there? If yes, we'll take on the assignment. And I get it if they want a little more than market.
Right.
Everybody's doing that. But we wouldn't take on an assignment where the seller wants 20 and the market's 14, 15.
Right. And you would show the data, the
Yes, we
comparables.
would show the data. We would show them the market conditions. Of course, yeah, we tour listen, we help sellers prepare for sale if that's the route they want to take,
Right.
you know. But absolutely, we act like they're consultants and advisors.
Great.
That's what we do.
Understood. And with the investment sales brokerage business having such a low barrier to entry, how do you stand out and how do you continue to grow your market share over time?
The key is to have a specialization, and you're right, it is a very competitive market. But the key is to have a specialization and to find ways to add value to your clients.
Great.
And I think once you specialize in an asset class, you'll know how to add value. You know, you'll know how the information the seller's giving you, how the market's going to react to it, and that's why they're hiring you.
Right.
You know,
And-
they're hiring you for that expertise and for you to help them position this asset for an efficient and effective sale in the market.
Understood. And do you think as a specialist, you kind of have your ear close to the ground because you're kind of understanding everything there is to know about your property type or asset class? And that would be different with a generalist who kind of does everything.
Yes. And by the way, I was a generalist. And it's hard to be a generalist. You know, you're selling retail, you're selling development sites, you know, you're trying to get your hands on this cool hotel you heard is for sale, you know, and it's hard. But if you're a specialist, you know, like you want to know, like you know, deals that me or my firm don't broker, we want to know about it. If it traded, we want to know. It's amazing. Who's the buyer? Who's the seller? Why did it trade for such price per square foot, or for such GRM, or for such cap rate?
Right.
And you dig, and you know the market. And even though we didn't broker the deal, at least we could present that comp and talk about it to a prospective, you know, a prospective seller that we're valuing their building this way. You know.
Understood. Okay. And how would you go about learning a new market? Let's say you were dropped into a random market, let's say Kentucky. How would you be able to become a market leader in that market in a year?
In a year, I could probably do it in 12 months. I'll tell you what, Kentucky, it's very simple. I would call my you're talking to me, right? I have right, not some junior guy. Okay, fine. I would call my Rolodex of New York guys that I transacted with, call them up and say, listen, would you be open to seeing opportunities in Kentucky? Most of them, not majority, but most of them will say, listen, as long as I don't have to deal with rent regulations and a liberal housing code, I'll look at opportunities there, you know? And so I'll qualify maybe like top 5 or 10 guys, and then I'll go and I'll start calling the sellers in the market, not owners, sellers. I will go look at comps. Anybody that's sold in the last, I would say maybe 12 to 24 months, statistics show that if they sold in the last 2 years, they're more likely to sell something else, you know, again. So I would call all the sellers that sold in the last 24 months and tell them that I'm bringing a group from New York and they're out shopping.
Awesome.
What can we get done together?
Amazing.
And I think I'll be a market leader.
Okay, great. And if you were a blank slate, if you were someone kind of 2 months into the business, a junior person, how would you do it?
Good question. I would join an active team. I think it's so important for juniors to work on a good team, or to work, and a team could be 2 people, right?
Under someone else's
wing. You got to work under, exactly. You got to work under a senior broker. I think that's the best way to really grow your career.
Great, understood. And how did you learn the skills associated with being a leader? Is this something you were born with, or did you develop this as you went through your career?
First of all, I don't think leaders are born. Maybe some, but I think everything is developed. I think it's something I developed through time. I wanted to be better. I wanted to build my business. I wanted to hire the right guys on my team, you know, the right support staff. And, you know, they're naturally looking for a leader. And you know, sometimes you got to step into that role.
Right, 100%. And what do you think makes a good leader and a good principal?
I think being a bit of a risk taker, having a vision, definitely having a vision, but that vision should constantly be growing.
Got it. And what's the best way to fire someone, but also help them in their journey?
Wow, good question. I think definitely be upfront with what their shortcomings are, and maybe, I fired one person in my life, and I did share with them what their shortcomings are and how they could learn and grow from these shortcomings. Everybody has shortcomings and setbacks, but I think the key is to learn and grow from them.
100%. And let's say someone watching this right now wants to be a real estate entrepreneur. Would you recommend for them to work at a big shop like JLL, CBRE, or start their own firm directly out of college and learn as they go?
I think definitely start at a big shop.
Okay.
Um, I personally am giving my brother that advice. Go work for a more established, bigger firm. Join a team, learn what you can, absorb what you can, and then come to me.
Great. Understood. And as far as business partners, how do you vet business partners? What's the telling sign that you shouldn't work with someone?
You know what? I always trust my sixth sense.
Mm. Gut.
I trust my gut. Exactly. I'll go with not just how they talk,
Yeah.
or it's not all about talk and action. It is about talk and action, but also you got to go sometimes with your gut feeling. And I usually go with my gut feeling, my sixth sense about it.
Understood. And how do you make money in a bad market, in a down investment sales market?
In a down market, I think the best way to make the best way to make it in a down market, and I've been through many of them, is to make sure you have the volume, and you do that by really specializing and knowing the market. And during COVID, people were calling me all the time. Hey, a lot of people went out of state, right? They went they went to other markets, but I stayed in New York. Thankfully, New York was keeping me busy.
Right.
And I was building on already the connections and the business I already built. I'm not going to go elsewhere and start. But believe it or not, this is the best way to catch market share. I did that in 2019 with the rent laws. I had it during COVID. Sellers, buyers were calling me, hey, what do you think about this deal? Hey, what do you think about my building? I'm having trouble with this guy's not paying rent. How would the market react to it? How can you value this? So I stuck around and I added value to them. That's the best way. That's the best way to make money in down market. And there are opportunities. Look, I think as brokers, we're making money whether the market's going up or down.
True.
As long as there are transactions. And you're in New York, there's always going to be transactions.
True.
I don't care what anybody says. New York you're always going to be transacting here. Of course, depending on the price, but there's always going to be transactions here.
Understood. And what do you look for in a new hire for Alpha Realty?
I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of people come and go, not only at Alpha Realty, at Besen, at GFI. And I'll tell you what a young, not just a young, any broker needs in this business, and that's what I look for in new hires, is their desire to really be in this business, and their ability to a strong mental attitude, their ability to really weather the ups and downs. You always have deals fall apart. There's always challenges. You can't let it affect you. Like I have deals fall apart. I can't be down about it for a week and let it affect the 10, 15 other deals I have going on. So you really have to have a strong mental attitude, and I look for that in new hires.
Understood. And what was the hardest deal you've ever worked on?
The hardest deal I've ever worked on. You know what? There's plenty, and I gotta say, it's all about the personalities involved in the deal. It's not the biggest deal or the smallest deal. Some of the easiest deals were my biggest deals. Those I think were the easiest ones, the smoothest. Well, every deal has their challenges, but we're always dealing with personalities. Like every transaction has a buyer, a seller, attorney. Maybe there's some outside advisor also involved, and you're dealing with egos and everybody's own motivation and desire. And as a broker, you got to manage all this. You got to manage and make sure everybody's moving in the right direction to closing. So that could get challenging, but that's exciting. That's also the exciting part of this 100%. Business.
And what are some of your strategies to kind of move people into the direction that you move to the people to the direction of closing the deal?
I think reminding them of, again, everybody could get caught up in their thing. I think reminding them that we're here to get a deal done.
Just to put their ego aside.
Right. Put the ego aside. You, Mr. Lawyer, have a duty to your client. You, seller, or have a duty to, but you make it work. But I think constantly reminding them and moving them in the right direction that, hey, we're all on the same page and we all want to get the deal done.
Understood. Got it. And what idea do you believe about a specific market or asset class that many people you respect disagree with you on?
Oh, wow. I think I'll tell you what, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but cap rates did not rise due to interest rates.
Mm.
In fact, I think you'll find that they are not really correlated.
Mm.
And the reason cap rates really rose is because a lot of buyers are on the sidelines. For example, that Kentucky example,
Right.
right? If a new buyer comes to town tomorrow and say, I wanna put $1 billion into buying multifamily assets in Kentucky, cap rates are
Come
going
down.
down.
Yeah.
There's probably not even enough product, and the guy's gonna have to be bidding and overbidding just
Yeah.
to get the product, just to buy the stuff. So tomorrow, and I'm saying this for a reason. Tomorrow, a new buyer could come into town, right? Whatever, some big life insurance or some foreign government's gonna come to town and want to spend billions of dollars on buying New York City multifamily assets. Guess what? Cap rates are gonna go down.
Yeah.
And that might be one, it might be a group, but I think, and as I told you before, as rates stabilize and there's some level of certainty in the market, more buyers are going to enter the market. And because more buyers are going to enter the market, cap rates are going to be going down while rates are still high.
Understood. Got it. And how do you recognize an opportunity you want to go big on? Is it based on intuition or is it based on facts?
It starts with intuition, and then facts always kill the deal. An opportunity I want to go big on, yeah, it's going to be a byproduct of both.
Okay.
It's gonna be based on intuition and fact. I think intuition usually plays a bigger role than facts.
Understood.
Yeah.
And what's been a recent huge opportunity that you kind of saw that everybody it's been a contrarian view?
Look, buying rent stabilized buildings is a
Contrarian,
contrarian
inherently
view,
contrarian.
but we're finding angles to get it done. Some of the stuff we're selling a lot of rent stabilized buildings and portfolios right now, and a lot of it is getting done because they have an attractive assumable mortgage. Like I did a $26 million in Queens recently, where the guy took over an existing $20 million debt on the deal. So he came in at 80% LTV, 3.1%, locked in for another 8 years. So the guy bought a 7 cap with an existing mortgage
Nice.
for 3.1%. So we are getting creative in getting these deals done.
And what's been a creative capital stack that someone has built, a buyer has built of a rent stabilized asset you've seen?
Oh wow, I've seen people buy with zero money down.
Wow.
With rent stabilized, I mean, it's tough now. Rates are higher. But with rent stabilization, no, it's tough. People, honestly, we're doing them with low LTV deals, unless there's already an existing mortgage, which is assumable. By the way, there are a lot of banks that will not allow an assumption, even though they say this is an assumable mortgage and they have another 5 years left. They will find 20 ways to kill the deal. If you're a bank, why would you allow an assumption at 3.5%? You can lend out the money at 6.5%.
True. And what have you learned about yourself since you've closed your first deal? As a businessman, as a family man,
I definitely learned a lot. I mean, we're talking about 14 years ago, 13 years ago, right? It's what I learned before I did my first deal. I had 16 deals fall apart in my first year. That's very discouraging. And I think that's where I learned the importance of, first of all, if you want to be in this business, whatever it takes, you're going to weather any storm, any challenge, any obstacle you have. But I think what I really learned is, again, it could be really discouraging to have so many deals fall apart. And I'm talking about we were in contracts out, LOI negotiations, and I think that's where I learned the importance of having a strong mental attitude in this business.
Perfect. Got it. And who do you learn from at this point in your career?
I learned from everyone. I really, every situation, from buyer, seller, even to a junior guy in my team. You could really take something from everyone. Like at Besen, I worked very closely with Ahmed, but there were a lot of good other senior brokers there, and everybody kind of has their own style. Like I like to say, brokers come in all different shapes and sizes, and everybody has their style. But I take and I internalize it, and I really tailor it to myself and how I wanna improve and become better.
Awesome, perfect. And what's your primary driving factor nowadays? Is it money, personal achievement, family, philanthropy?
It's always fun to make more money, but I think it's achievement right now.
Okay.
I'm always striving to
be better.
Always striving to be better, and my competition is myself. Like 2023 Lev should be better than 2022 Lev.
Awesome.
And 2022 Lev had a goal to be better than 2021 Lev.
Great. And I have my final question to wrap it up.
Okay.
What advice would you give your 22-year-old self about life, business, and relationships?
You know what? Don't be scared to take risks. Even if it's unclear what's going to work out, because everything, even if it doesn't work out, everything's a learning opportunity. I would leave it at that. There's no such thing as losing. You're always going to learn and grow,
Learning
even from
experience.
something that doesn't work. Exactly. Experience is the best school, or is the best pathway to growth.
Awesome. Amazing. Lev, this has been so informative and so valuable for young professionals, and they can apply this to their careers moving forward. Thank you again for doing
Awesome.
this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
It's good.
2:04, 10 minutes early.
Wow, good.
I'm glad we got to get through all of these.
This is amazing.